We are live on YouTube. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today on the YouTube video, we're going to talk about fiber. The subject matter that I sent out was fiber can save lives. You know, when I've ever discussed fiber, especially if I've discussed this with a dietitian or a doctor, a physician, and I said, you need to discuss with your patients about taking fiber. And the most common answer that I get after that is, well, you want them to take Metamucil. That's fiber, right? Not quite the point I'm trying to make is that, yes, fiber can save lives. Yes, you get fiber from foods, most fruits and vegetables. There are higher fiber foods. We all know those. You know, you eat a prune, you know that's a high fiber food. But let's just start out by saying it's very important to understand that there are two types of fiber. Soluble, dissolves in water, and becomes crystal clear, like this. And insoluble, that's your Metamucil types that just sort of float in there like sawdust. And they have two very important roles. The insoluble fiber sort of scrubs as it goes through. It removes debris in the colon and allows it to go through. So it can act as a laxative. And if you'll notice the new commercials for Metamucil, because they don't call it Metamucil anymore, they call it Meta. They abbreviated it Meta for health. And they're recommending it now for weight loss. Yeah, it can fill your tummy up, make you feel full. You'll eat less. And it does help to bind things up in the colon. Then there's soluble fiber. This is the 100% crystal clear, the more natural forms that you'll find. You know, you'll find one in a grocery store called Benefiber, which actually comes from wheat, which is why I don't like to recommend that because so many people have sensitivities to wheat. So when we look at fiber, what's its role? Soluble fiber. It can help us to eliminate certain things that we consume out of the system better. So, for instance, if we eat a high sugary meal, yet we're consuming enough soluble fiber, that soluble fiber have to bind some of that sugar and residue up and allow your body to excrete it. So I'm going to read this article published in the Public Library of Science that said higher fiber saves lives. But, and every time medicine is dealt with fiber, there's always a but. And usually what's on the other side of the but is the negative side of this. High fiber saves lives, but food processing may remove its benefits. So if you eat a high fiber diet, let's go back to the prunes idea. You notice they don't call them prunes anymore. They call them dried plums. Prunes had the old people connotation. So if that's all they're doing is drying the plum, most of its fiber will maintain. But if we freeze dry that plum, a lot of its fibrous benefits are destroyed. So listen up. Eating more fiber can improve life expectancy, especially in those with diabetes. Said people from the University of Otago. Hadn't heard of that one. Otago. Type 2 diabetes has reached epidemic proportions worldwide, more than the coronavirus. It is associated with serious medical complications and increases the risk of dying from COVID-19. Intriguing that this article made the connection that said, if you're diabetic, you're at that top ranking of risk factors from coronavirus. Your susceptibility of your red blood cells to attack by the coronavirus is through the roof. So if you're consuming sufficient soluble fiber, the skin off of apples, good, well-rounded lettuce, red peppers, green peppers, cucumbers, getting all that fiber in there. Broccoli. You can help bind up a lot of that blood sugar to lower your blood sugar levels and make you less of a risk factor for coronavirus. Now, can we sit here right now and say, guess what? Consume soluble fiber across the board, less likely to catch coronavirus? Could we put fiber up there with buffered vitamin C as a protection factor? Two recent studies from the University of Otago researchers have shown that eating more dietary fiber improves life expectancy, although food processing may remove all the benefits. One study, a review published in the Public Library of Science, used data collected from 8,300 adults with type 1 or type 2 diabetes to show that those with a higher fiber intake food faced a significant reduction in premature mortality compared to those eating the least fiber. More fiber lived longer. Lead author Dr. Andrew Reynolds from the National Heart Foundation at the Department of Medicine says, compared with the New Zealand average of 19 grams of fiber per day, which is low, those consuming 35 grams per day have a 35% reduced risk of dying early. That's pretty significant. His advice to increase fiber includes eating more whole grains, legumes, vegetables, and whole fruit. Applies to people across the globe. Try a few different ways to increase your fiber intake and see what works best for you. If you eat white refined breads or rolls, there's the standard American diet. Try changing to whole grain breads and rolls. Try brown rice. Try brown pasta. Try adding a half a can of legumes to the meals you already make, black beans, etc. Try an extra veggie with your main meal. Fresh, frozen, or canned, they said, without sodium are all good choices. I disagree. Fresh or frozen, okay? But even freezing sometimes will destroy some of the fiber. A research team also analyzed 42 trials with 1,789 participants where adults with prediabetes, type 1 or type 2 diabetes, were given more fiber and whole grains for at least 6 weeks. They found consistent improvements in blood glucose control, lowering of cholesterol levels, reduction in body weight when adults with prediabetes, type 1 or type 2, increased their fiber or whole grain intake. You know, we go over and over again about whole grains. And so many of these pundits that purport to be weight loss docs, they can't have any grains at all. Yet we find in these studies over and over again, by adding whole grains, the right forms of grains, we actually lose weight. Senior author Professor Jim Mann from the Department of Medicine, the director of Healthier Lives National Science Challenge, has been involved with diabetes research for over 40 years and led the first controlled trials of high fiber diets and diabetes all the way back in the 70s. When our controlled studies confirmed the benefits of dietary fiber 40 years ago, we never suspected they would be quite so impressive. It's taken 40 years of research and these meta-analysis to be able to show that this dietary treatment can have an effect as striking as that produced by medications. In the second study, researchers found not all foods that contain fiber are created equal. While whole grains are an important source of fiber, their benefits may be diluted when heavily processed. For this study to be published in the Journal of Diabetes Care, Dr. Reynolds and Professor Mann led a trial in adults with type 2 diabetes living in Dunedin to consider the effects of food processing on the health benefits of whole grain. Participants ate minimally processed whole grain foods such as whole grain oats and chunky grainy bread for 1 fortnight. And again, thumbs up for you living here in Atlanta to Publix Bakery. Chunky grain bread. That's what they make over in their bakery. It's phenomenal. Whole grain foods are now widely perceived to be beneficial, but increasingly, products available on the supermarket shelves are ultra processed, coming from other cities. Researchers used cutting-edge glucose monitors to record participants' blood glucose levels over the day and night during the 2-week intervention periods. Results showed improved blood glucose levels after meals and reduced variability of blood glucose levels throughout the day when participants consumed the minimally processed whole grains. The results were most striking after breakfast, as that was when most of the whole grains were consumed. Researchers also observed something unexpected. Although participants were asked not to lose weight by eating less food during the trial, results showed their average weight increased slightly after 2 weeks of eating processed whole grains and decreased slightly after eating minimally processed whole grains. Gained weight when it was processed, lost weight when it wasn't. These two studies, along with previous research, confirmed choosing high fiber foods like whole grains, whole fruit, dark leafy greens, and legumes is good for everyone and important in managing diseases such as type 1 or type 2 diabetes. However, we are now beginning to understand that how foods are processed is important. And for whole grains, when you finally mill them, you remove their benefits. When we break that whole grain, that crunchy part, when it's broken, it's lost its benefits. Now, if we want to add some fiber to a meal, hang on just 1 second. Here's one of our newer products from our friends at Nutritional Frontiers. Frontier Fiber, they call it advanced GI support. As a dietary supplement, mix 1 scoop, 5 grams, which is only a teaspoon, in hot or cold liquid or food 3 times a day or as directed. And again, 1 to 3 times a day. Again, a digestion-resistant maltodextrin source, Fibersol 2. You can look that up, registered trademark brand product, 5.85 grams. Other ingredients, none. That's all that's in here. So if you want to add some of the mixtures of good fibers to your diet every day, this is a simple way to add that and really make a difference. By the way, our new website went up at midnight last night. You can check that out now at thenutritionshop.net. And you can reach us here at the office if you have questions or comments, 678-228-8900. Tomorrow, we're going to go to cooking class and talk about adding a blend of spices to your meals that can lower inflammation in your body. We're going to talk about the anti-inflammatory diet and adding spices and how important that can be. Okay, 678-228-8900. We're working on getting our Instagram fixed, so that's coming soon. And again, God bless you folks. Have a great, healthy day, and I will see you back here tomorrow. Take care.